Welcome back to Shemsuniverse. So today, guys, we're going to discuss Saturn and all 12 of the Zodiac signs. This is a more serious sign, guys. As we know, Saturn is the most powerful planet in astrology. It's considered like sort of a detriment in numerology, and it just has a symbolism as a whole. Saturn has always been a planet that kind of gives you bad luck and a bit of problems and misfortunes in your life. But there are ways to overcome it, which we're going to discuss in this video. So wherever you see Saturn in your Zodiac sign is where you need to face your fear directly, and it's going to kind of show you where the obstacles in your life are going to be, but it also gives you the clues on how to overcome them in a very natural, cohesive way. So we're going to get into that today. So the first part of it is that we want to discuss the symbolism of Saturn. Saturn has the inverted symbolism of Jupiter because Jupiter is all about expansion, whereas Saturn's about restriction. So the symbolism of Saturn is really about a cross over sort of like an H. And what that sort of means is that it's a cross, meaning sacrificing yourself to get a better reality. Sacrifice is what runs our material realm. You have to sacrifice pain and struggle to get muscular. You have to sacrifice and save and invest and budget to get rich. All of these things, what Saturn is here to teach us is that you have to sacrifice your wants to get something else, a desire or a purpose done. And without that sacrifice, without that discipline, without the hard negative parts of Saturn, nothing will actually be manifested. And that's what a lot of people like to ignore. So let's get right into this today. So if you have Saturn in Aries, what this means is that you may face problems with your ideology of self-image, with really using your own voice, having that willpower, being that innovator. And you need to learn that your sense of self is of utmost importance. And if Saturn is here, that means that you may have a very weak sense of self. In order to fix that, do things like aspiring for discipline and competence in the things that you do. Whether that just be showing up to work on time for a year straight, starting a resolution of working out very hard for at least 3 months. These things are going to naturally up your confidence. A lot of people want to increase their confidence without actually increasing their competence, which is very foolish. You need to actually be confident based on what the skill set that you have is. And that way your self-image will go up because yourself is going to say, in your mental dialogue, you're going to say, well, I became muscular in 3 months, I got abs, or I lost 30 pounds, or whatever it may be. But you actually have done something that actually warrants you to have proper confidence. And that's going to give you the more realistic self-image that's properly grounded by real tangible results in the material world. That's what Saturn's all about, is producing real tangible results. Nothing that are in your mental, nothing spiritual, physical, that's here, that's right now. Moving on, next we have Saturn in Taurus. Saturn in Taurus just means that it wants you to get rich. Saturn wants to show you that having a abundance mindset and having nice things is something that's very realistic, but you have to sacrifice to get it. A lot of people that have Saturn in Taurus are people that actually may have had a hard time either getting money due to a negative mental dialogue from parents, from ancestry, different things like that. And what you need to learn is that being rich is not evil. It's something that demands a lot of sacrifice. And the people that are rich, these celebrities, these CEOs, these people that you see on TV that have these yachts and mansions and cars, if they didn't inherit it, they had to sacrifice in order to get it. And as much as we want to say that these people are lucky, they're not. It takes a lot of consistency to get that overnight success. So when you have Saturn in Taurus, that's what it's trying to teach you, how to really get money in the material realm, how to really have nice things, but it's showing you the blood, sweat, and tears that it's going to take to actually acquire these said things. So here is all about really kind of reprogramming your mind and ignoring the negative mental dialogue around having riches and fame. Moving on, next we have Saturn in Gemini. Saturn in Gemini is all about positive self-expression. So what this means is that people that have Saturn here may not be into small talk, gossiping, networking, having large groups of friends. It may restrict those things for you where you feel too shy or withdrawn to really put yourself out there. So the main trait you want to get rid of is timidity, being too timid. You want to get rid of being that withdrawn person. You want to be more of an extroverted person that's able to create proper networks and connections. I'm not saying be a gossip, be a person that just has the random gift of gab, but you want to be a person that's actually putting yourself out there for the proper reasoning, whether that be through marketing or for business, or just to make new friends and acquaintances in your neighborhood or when you go out. You need to have that sort of Gemini mercurial skill, but Saturn's trying to hold that back. It's going to make your social networking very hard, but you got to overcome that in order to get the proper results. Moving on, next we have Saturn in Cancer. Saturn in Cancer more so signifies a sort of neglect on our emotional side. A lot of people with Saturn in Cancer, unlike all the other signs where it enhances the sign, this is actually restricting your emotions. It makes it so you don't really feel like the need to express yourself. You may not feel emotions that deeply. And when you have Saturn here, it really means that you need to actually explore your emotions in a more creative, demonstrative way, and then use them for sort of like different things like an artistic pursuit, therapeutic, medical, all of those things can come under your hand very easily because you're able to control your emotions very well. Saturn has restrained your emotions so that you can actually use them like a gun and actually aim and fire and execute and do things in a more positive way. A lot of people that have Saturn in this position end up doing things like 911 dispatch, paramedics, police, army, just because they're able to control their emotions in such a structured, natural way that a lot of people just cannot really see how they're able to do that. Just make sure you're not restraining your emotions to the point where you come off as like a sociopath or something like that. Understand that your emotions are necessary, and they are necessary when it comes to manifesting the things that you want in your life. Moving on, next we have Saturn in Leo. Saturn is very detrimental in Leo. It's complete opposition. So when you have Saturn in Leo, Saturn will try to restrain you from performing, from being somebody who's on center stage. It wants to test your commitment to see if you're going to be a social person or you're going to be a very introverted, just introspective sort of person that doesn't end up doing anything with their talents. So a lot of people that have Saturn and Leo are very talented people, whether that be through like the music, the arts, sports, whatever, but they don't end up using those skills because they don't really want to be seen. They don't want to be famous. So when you have Saturn here, you have to understand that focus more on the value and the traits, the talents that you have, and just use your God-given ability to get things done. And if fame comes alongside that, then great. But push yourself to the limit and actually exhilarate your abilities, because if you're able to enhance your abilities, enhance your natural competence, then all the results that you kind of low-key want are going to come as a result of trusting your own process and following through with those type of things. What we have next now is Saturn in Virgo. So these type of people get very, very caught up with like paralysis, analysis. They'll get caught up with sort of overlooking into like details in regards to how do they handle their business. People in this position end up doing things like HR management, anything to do with organizing a company, keeping the structure of it very well. They're very, very good financial advisors, very good trade, stock people, just because they're able to look at the finer details of life, finer details of any sort of business structure, and really deconstruct it. Saturn's going to kind of restrain you and kind of keep you there. Whereas you could be the person that runs the company, you might feel the need to just be the advisor or be on the lower end of doing bookkeeping and different things like that. What you want to do is make sure that you're using your abilities to reach the top pinnacle of success. If you don't use your Saturnine abilities to actually do that, then it's just going to restrain you and you're going to get bad luck in the process. So the whole concept, before I go to the next half, guys, is really about overcoming the obstacle that Saturn puts by jumping over it, and then realizing that it wasn't really there at all. It was just you working against yourself. Moving on, next we have Saturn in Libra. Saturn in Libra is actually where it's really, really powerful. It's the most powerful position for Saturn. Reason being, it's definitely somewhere where Saturn's actualized. It's very powerful here. It's all about balance. People with Saturn in Libra, they really put relationship dynamics over everything else. Typically what happens is they're more so anti-relationship than relationship. So what I mean by relationship focused is they're focused on making sure they don't have any tight relationships with people at all. They're more of the transactional types when you have Saturn here. They're the types of people that just want to have give and take sort of relationship with other people without getting into the emotional depths of what other relationships could offer. They really have that air sort of quality there where they want to be detached. The main weakness of this is that if you don't have any meaningful friendships or intimate relations, then you're never going to get anything done. You're never going to actually have a fulfilling life. So make sure that you gauge people in the correct way by categorizing people, but also understanding that there are people that are going to have to come in your inner circle in order for you to actually have a fully fulfilled life, both logically, mentally, and emotionally. Without all of that together, all those components, you're going to have a very, very hard time sort of like really appreciating your life, everything that it has to offer. Moving on, next we have Saturn in Scorpio. Saturn in Scorpio is kind of like that Pluto-Saturn sort of mix where it keeps you very stubborn, very power-oriented, could be still very manipulative, very dark, taboo-ish. But what we have here now is somebody who, they sort of fail to see the bigger picture of life. They don't want to change themselves in any sort of way. People that have Saturn in Scorpio really have a very strong sense of self. But the problem here is that can lead to being too rigid in thinking, too rigid in just their whole mental dialect, to the point where they don't actually adapt to their life circumstances. So if you're somebody that's meant to be somebody who's going to be a business person, you have to adapt to different various sets of people, but you have Saturn in Scorpio, you might just be the same way around every single person you meet. That transformation is sort of necessary, and that sort of chameleon way of dealing with different sets of people is always necessary for good business and just for good relations in general. I'm not saying be fake or superficial. Scorpio is definitely against that, but you need to find out a way to really enhance your abilities of having your sense of self, but also enhance your abilities in seeing people for who they are and then adapting to who they are without compromising too much of yourself in the process. All right? Moving on, next we have Saturn in Sagittarius. What this sort of means is that people within Sagittarius is such a free-willing sign that likes to just go everywhere and explore and get new emotional depths and new knowledge on different cultures and different various subjects, whatever that may be. When Saturn's here, it kind of encloses your learning process. It makes you not really want to learn. It makes you sort of like a little bit rigid, just like in Scorpio. All you have to do is expand yourself. Look at it. Remember, Jupiter governs this. Expansion versus constriction versus restriction is going to be hard, but you need to expand past that restriction and use discipline within the restrictions that you naturally have. If you're somebody that's already financially not stable, you're broke, you don't have much going on, then be disciplined to get rich to then have new experiences. Saturn's trying to teach you about the limits of your life based on where you are at a given time. It's up to you to actually change yourself and actually look at the restrictions as ways to get discipline, look at it as motivating factors, and then expand through them. It's the same way that when we do bicep curls, we do push-ups, our muscles have to contract and they feel restricted, and then they grow as a result of that restriction. So you just have to look at it in that sort of way where you're pushing through, and that restriction is going to give you more strength in the process. Moving on, next we have Saturn in Capricorn. This is already its natural planetary influence, so Capricorn works very, very well. Saturn and Capricorn people are very responsible. The problem here is that people that have Saturn and Capricorn have problems with anxiety and stress. The reason being is they feel overly responsible for themselves and overly responsible for people around them. These are the types of people that will have to be the sort of big adult person when they're a kid. They never really had much of a childhood. When this happens is these people end up becoming a little bit too rigid, a little bit too responsible, too overthinking. A lot of you guys end up becoming very successful. However, things can change if you take those responsibilities and turn them into a burden. What you want to do is make sure that you're using your responsibilities and understand that with those responsibilities comes power. But you have to really look through what's going on and understand that different perspectives are going to bring different results. If you're looking at everything that you have to do, like pay your bills, take care of your family, and all as burdens, it's just going to be a burden. But if you look at it like, I'm the powerful person that has to do this, then it's going to be something that you're going to wake up and feel more influenced and more inspired to do. So make sure you focus a lot on your perspective and how you're viewing things, and don't get caught up in negative feedback loops. Moving on, next we have Saturn in Aquarius. At one point, Saturn was a governing planet for Aquarius. This really works quite well. What happens here is Saturn and Aquarius people are usually afraid of being alone. And what happens is you guys are so used to the black sheep sort of characteristic, but when Saturn's here, you guys feel sort of the need to be more with people, be more attached. But what Saturn's trying to teach you is that it's going to cut off friends from you, it's going to cut off family, it's going to cut off relatives. You need to use all that stuff as motivation to get in better connection with your spiritual self and with your mental self. And in turn, that's going to make you a better physical person. You need to understand that if ties are just being cut, if doors are closing, other doors are opening, you just need to look for where those openings are in order to actually actualize your full potential. The key here is not to overly focus on relations with other people and focus more on the relation within yourself and how your mental dialogue is working on a day-to-day basis. Last but not least, we have Saturn in Pisces. This is my one particularly. This is a very unique one. So there's this very spiritual elements when you have Saturn in Pisces. It's sort of karmic. And what this means is that a lot of people with Saturn in Pisces try to avoid small talk. They try to avoid the spotlight. They have a lot of natural like gifts when it comes to clairvoyance, and maybe when it comes to just knowing different facets of knowledge on various subjects. But they don't end up really putting it in the spotlight because they don't really want to be seen. And what happens is when you keep restraining yourself and restricting, you're limiting career options, you're limiting friendships that you can attain, and you're limiting yourself as a person. We have one reality, or we have one life here based on what we know. If you're going to limit yourself to saying, I'm not going to share my knowledge, or I'm going to look down on other people for what they're doing, that overcritical voice is just going to lead you to living a very desolate and lonely life, whereas you need to more so open up and share your knowledge with other people in order to actually pass Saturn's obstacles, which is why I do YouTube. I realized that having Saturn in Pisces, I should be actually giving more away than trying to receive or just like staying in a private sort of corner. I want to more so now be on the forefront, showing my face, and then making my reputation precede me in the near future. That's the whole way to actually utilize Saturn in Pisces, is by using your spiritual gifts and making other people aware of them, and also helping other people by healing them based on your experiences that you've experienced earlier on in your life. All right, so that should conclude it, guys. Just to conclude and make sure you guys do fully understand this, Saturn in each of these signs, it's forcing you to incorporate the traits of the signs to overcome its obstacles. So if you don't understand it, if you have any questions regarding it, just leave it in the comments for me. But aside from that, guys, please like, subscribe. That's it for today, guys. Peace.